What do you do on Sundays?
We talk about Cate Blanchett, the acting, the costumes, the awards, but mostly the Blanchett of it all.
Oh, I'm not acting.
You think this is a love affair?
I saw you, Erica. Meeting in the middle.
This is Sundays with Cate, and I'm your host, Murtada El Fadl. Welcome to a new episode of Sundays with Cate, a podcast series about the films of Cate Blanchett. This is Murtada El Fadl, and today my guest is writer and podcaster Kate Halliwell. Hi, Kate.
Hello. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, you were, as I was just telling you, you were at the top of a very short list of favorite guests to come on. So I'm happy that we are able to do this.
I'm going to pretend like that has more to do with my name being Kate and less to do with my unhealthy obsession, but maybe a little of both.
You and I sort of understand Kate's celebrity similar, and this is just from reading your tweets.
We both tweet about her fashion a lot, and I think that is all we need.
Yes.
That's all we need to talk about her for an hour on a podcast.
Yeah, that's a good thing to bond over. Kate's
It really is.
Kate's red carpet. But there is actually a movie that we're talking about. And the movie that we're talking about today is a movie. The best thing about it is Kate's wardrobe.
100%.
So we're talking about Ocean's 8, which is the 2018 movie that was kind of a sequel, kind of a reboot of the Ocean's movies, where Kate is Brad Pitt to Sandra Bullock's George Clooney, and they steal stuff from the Met Gala. They do correct people in the movie several times if it's gala or gala. What do you say?
I think I say gala, but honestly, I tweet about it more than I talk about it in person with anyone, so it doesn't really matter as long as you spell it right.
Yeah, that's true. So Kate is Lou Miller, and what a name.
What a name. Well, you already know she's going to just be like, have huge BDE, like lesbian energy, just from that name.
Yeah.
Tells you everything you need to know.
And spelled L-O-U, so that's even more.
Come on.
And I think her characterization is that she wears a mean jumpsuit and motorcycle leather pants.
Yes. What more do you need? Like, that's all the characterization I have ever wanted in any character. And
her introduction is really great because she's introduced while she is a bar owner of some sort, somewhere downtown New York. She's a very downtown girl, and she's tampering with the vodka while everybody else who's helping her is watching Judge Judy on TV, and she's like, nothing's happening on Judge Judy. No.
So it's so great because, first of all, I know we're going to talk about kind of like just the huge like gay energy that she has in this movie, but they introduce her and she's just like presiding over all these like young women who are just like obviously switching up vodka and like helping her with her, criminal ways. But she's just like got these bangs in her face. All you see is like bangs and cheekbones, and which is, all you need from Cate Blanchett. And she's just like telling these girls basically how to commit crimes, how to do the crime, how to live the life, and just like strutting around. And it's just like, it introduces her in such an efficient way where like, you're like, this is her shit. She just runs this ship of like women, and all these women worship her, and it's amazing. It's like and she just like, there's this thing in the first scene where she's talking to this girl about how like she doesn't need to be watching Judge Judy and why they're diluting vodka and how to play everybody. Mm-hmm. And this girl like takes a shot of vodka, and Kate like reaches out and like wipes it off her face in the most unnecessarily sexual way. And you're like, there she is. That's why I'm watching this movie right now.
Yeah, and you're like, all right, give us more of that.
I know.
And I've never in my life wanted to work in a bar, but with that scene, I'm like, yes, if Kate owned a bar, I would work in a bar.
Maybe. I would consider it. I would consider a career change.
We don't have to talk a lot about the plot of the movie because basically it's just the plot of every Ocean's 11 movie. There's something they want to get. They recruit the people. So the people they recruit include Helena Bonham Carter, Anne Hathaway, Mindy Kaling, Rihanna, and Awkwafina. It's a pretty great cast.
It is. It's pretty good.
Yeah, but the movie is not as good as this cast.
Right. I know we have this later in the outline, but, people were so hyped for this movie.
Yeah.
And they just kept adding people to cast and be like, holy shit, Rihanna. holy shit, Sarah Paulson, holy shit, Aquafina. And they were like adding and adding. And then the pictures were coming out. And we were like, this is going to be the greatest thing in the history of cinema. And it wasn't, but it was fun. Like, it was good. And, you know, I mean, the pictures of them on set and in the outfits basically like sum up the appeal of the movie, which is just like watching these fabulous women wear fabulous clothes and do crime. And it's a great time. It's not incredible, but it's a great time.
Yeah, it is a great time. And I think also this movie, if you remember, as you know, I follow and look for photos of Cate. So it was such a long time from when they were shooting in New York and we were getting paparazzi pictures every day to the actual movie coming out. It was almost 2 years. So it was such a long wait. And all those paparazzi pictures.
Forever.
Yes, forever. All the paparazzi pictures were so amazing. Like Cate and Rihanna in Central Park with a laptop. Like, who knows what they were doing?
Yeah. And every time, like every day, they had a different crazy outfit on. Every day it was like she was coming out of her trailer holding one of her kids, like talking to Rihanna with the other hand, like in like a velvet suit or like in this crazy coat. And we were like, this is going to be amazing. And like there was a picture of like Anne Hathaway with the knife on the subway.
Yes.
But then it was, you're right, it was so long before the movie actually came out. I remember like being like literally on Twitter, just like another day, no Ocean's 8 trailer. Like, will we make it?
Will this movie ever come out?
Which honestly, I think was part of like the problem of building the hype.
Yeah.
Was like, it raised our expectations too high because we had to wait too long. And all we had was these amazing pictures to like stare at and wait.
Yeah.
Yeah, those pictures were hard to top.
And this was like, as a New Yorker, this was a great time for me because Cate was in New York for a very long time because she shot this movie and then she was on Broadway in the present. And there were always pictures of her all the time going to work, basically, going to the theater, coming out of the theater, plus all the Ocean's 8 paparazzi shots.
She has such great street style, too, like with, like, you know, going in and out of theaters and, like, walking around with her family. And, like, she went through the phase where she had the big glasses all the time. And she, like, briefly dyed her hair pink. And, like, that was such a weird era for her where I feel like she just was wearing such weird clothes and just having the best time.
Yeah.
What a time to be, like, on Getty Images looking at Cate Blanchett
exactly.
pictures.
And the pussy hat in Times Square with her kids.
Yes. Incredible.
It was a great time. And so the first thing I want to talk about her performance is that when I saw this movie, I was very disappointed because I don't think there was enough of her in the movie. And I don't know, was it because she was doing a show on stage and they're just like, oh, you know, come on your days off or whatever, because she is a lot in the beginning of the movie. It's her and Sandra recruiting Helena Bonham Carter, her talking to Sandra, and then she kind of vanishes, and then it's as if they added the ending where we discover that she's the biggest, you know, badass of all of them and did 17,000 heists while they were doing the one heist, but also and it was all off screen.
Right. I know. I'm like, give us more. I agree. I think when I was just watching this yesterday for this podcast, I hadn't seen it in a long time, and I forgot how little she's in it. And like she's in it a lot in the beginning, like you said. Yeah. And she's in the background a lot, like when they're focusing on other characters. But I'm like, why are we not? I mean, obviously we're extremely biased and we love her a lot. We have a whole podcast about it. But I think we just needed more. You know, she's just like kind of there sometimes, and then there are whole swaths of the movie without her. I'm like, why isn't she here?
Yeah.
You know?
But let's talk about the big dick energy, because I think, I don't know if that term came around at the same time or it came later, but I remember at least everyone who was mentioning who has big dick energy, a lot of people were coming with Cate. And that was right after Ocean's 8 or around Ocean's 8.
Mm-hmm. All of my notes in response to this prompt are in all caps. I just need you to know that because that's how my brain works. Yes. Okay. So I remember when this did come out, I think it was like Allison P. Davis for The Cut wrote this whole piece. And she did mention Cate Blanchett in the piece as being like a woman with big dick energy. And you can just tell in this movie, she like embodies that not only like as a person, but she very clearly has this energy and how she carries herself in Ocean's 8, where like she always has like her thumbs in her belt loop. And every time she's sitting in this movie, I was like, holy shit, BDE, because there's so much like female manspreading that she's doing. Like every time she's on a couch, she's just like hunched over. She's got her legs like flayed out, like every man you've ever seen on the subway. Yeah. And I was like, that's not how women are taught to sit like politely in society, but she just like doesn't care. And like it's so clearly part of like the body language that she decided on for this character. And it works so well. And literally it's every time she's sitting, she's like got her, her legs spread out and her arms on her knees, and like she's just taking up so much space so purposefully. And there's one scene with she and Rihanna when she first introduces Nine Ball to Debbie, and they're on the couch, and Rihanna has like one leg completely splayed out to the side. Kate's like man-spreading like nobody's business. And I was like, this is the most powerful image of two women sitting in history. It was amazing.
Yeah, it's so good. And then the other thing, even when she crosses her legs, it's such a wide cross. Like, she goes around to cross her leg.
Yes, there's that one gif that everyone was like spreading around where she like kicks her leg all the way up and then like flails it over to the other side of the chair. It's such like an aggressive leg cross. Yeah. It's amazing.
It is amazing.
Cate Blanchett, incredible sitter. Who knew?
Yeah. Also incredible walker. I mean, she's always somebody like in all her movies, she is, and I've said this before in the podcast, so sorry for repetition, but she's one of the actors who knows how to fill the frame with her body. And in this movie, it was about the sitting, like you mentioned, but also the walking. There is a lot of purposeful walking around. For
sure. And she's got the boots and like the big pants, and like it just is so like noticeable once you realize what she's doing. And like she just like shows it off in such a great way. And like, I mean, a part of it is the wardrobe as well. Like they knew what they were working with. And obviously she's like, okay, I'm going to make this look as good as I possibly can. And she knows how to do that. But it's also kind of like just very assertive choice that she made with like her body language in the movie.
Even if this was possible, you'd need 20 people.
7 people.
Why do you need to do this?
Because it's what I'm good at.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this movie when I watched it also yesterday to talk to you. And especially the first part. I was just, when we already talked about the introduction and that scene where they go to recruit Helena Bonham Carter and she's intimidating Helena and Helena's like, having a nervous breakdown. First of all, that blue suit is so gorgeous, so beautiful.
It's amazing. And she's wearing like 15 necklaces and like a giant watch, like 7 rings. I was like, the amount of jewelry that is on her person right now is like probably as much money as they ended up stealing at the end of the movie. It's incredible. Yeah, that blue suit, it's like got like a chain instead of like buttons. It's like connected with a chain. Oh my God. It's amazing. You can tell Helena's character is like a little bit in awe. And I'm like, so are we.
Yeah, absolutely. And Helena's like, will I be ever able to design something that looks as great as this?
I know. Way to make her feel like a worse designer than she probably actually is.
So since we're talking about that suit, I think, people when this movie came out said that Anne Hathaway is the MVP, and she's totally fun, and she's playing off herself and other actresses, and she's very fun to watch. But I think the MVP of this movie is the costume designer in regards to the costumes of Lou Miller.
Absolutely, I agree. And I saw this prompt and had it in mind when I was watching the movie. And there are amazing costumes across the board, but the amount of costume changes that Kate has in this movie, every new scene, it's like she has a new suit or a new bomber jacket or a new coat. I'm like she changes outfits more than anyone else, I think, which is crazy. And they're all so good.
Yes, and the little ties that she wears, such a detail. Like, somebody who's a downtown bar owner in New York. She was probably, came of age in the early 90s. In that scene, she would wear those. Like, the detail in the costume design is so perfect.
Totally. And they were like, okay, we can't make them girlfriends on the screen, but like, we're going to make Kate wear a tie and little vests, and they'll know. Like, they'll know.
Yeah. And they also made Sandra feed her at Veselka.
Yes. Oh my God. I know. Kate like takes out her gum. I was like, incredible detail. So good. I also I know we're going to talk about their chemistry later, but just like the wardrobes, like sort of side by side, where Sandra is so like business casual and like so elegant in such a kind of just like businesswoman way. And then it's next to Kate's just like over the top, like 12 pieces of jewelry, blazers on top of coats, on top of suits. And it's just like their fashion works so well, sort of in accordance with each other to like tell us so much more about their characters and their chemistry. And it's fabulous. That scene in the diner where she feeds her is amazing.
That scene is really great. And I love what you said about that their costumes complement each other, because Kate is basically her loud friend. who is loud in everything. She's not loud, like, she doesn't scream or anything.
Right.
It's just the costumes are loud. The look is loud. Like, she's unmistakable, where Sandra is more of a con artist who sort of wants to be in the background, and both details fit their characters.
Absolutely. I just have all these different, I kept writing down costumes as I saw them. I was like, oh, that's their best one. And then something else would happen. I'd be like, oh no, it's this one. I love when they're having their confrontation on the beach about the guy that like she's bringing in. And the costume designer was like, okay, like it's not enough to do like a sick bomber jacket and leather pants. We got to add a tie. And then on top of that, we got to add 7 necklaces. And then we got to add some leather bracelets, because every good gay has like 7 leather bracelets on at any given time. It's just so
and
over
the boots. Don't forget.
Oh my God, boots.
Fuchsia boots. Like,
I know. And she's
lots
just
of detail.
She's got the bangs in her face at all times. And like, you would think that would make it harder for her to like emote and like give us the character, but it just like the cheekbones stand out in such a specific way with that haircut. And she just like is always like, just like jutting her jaw out. I don't know. It all just works together in such a great way to make her such a great character.
Yeah. My favorite, I love all the costumes, but if we were to choose favorites, I love the shimmery disco Givenchy jumpsuit, which is green, and then she's coming out of the Met Gala, or coming out of the, of the Met, and she's walking that walk, and then she opens it to show that she's wearing the necklace, or part of the necklace.
Amazing. I know, and they take a whole scene just to show Debbie like seeing her across the street. I'm like, yeah, this is your platonic friends. Okay. All right. Sure. Right? That is such a great jumpsuit, though. Fleabag could never, honestly. That was when the jumpsuit trend actually jumped off.
Yeah.
I think.
That was a great jumpsuit. So Sarah Edwards, the costume designer, you did a great job. You should have won 7 Oscars.
Yes, totally.
So let's talk about Sandra and Cate. So, like, Cate always, in my mind, I think she has always more chemistry with women on screen than with men.
Agreed.
You can always see that she likes people. Like, even when she's antagonizing Judi Dench in Notes on a Scandal, you can tell they really like each other. And I think here, she and Sandra really like each other. And there's this comfort in all, because especially at the beginning of the movie, there's a lot of scenes of them together. And you can tell that these are two actors who are really comfortable with each other.
Yeah, they're having so much fun. Like you can tell that they're just like sitting in the diner or sitting in the car, and like they have this like banter, and you can tell they're just having a great time. And just they're not all like amazing dialogue, but every now and then like they just have these little like biting lines where you can tell they're just like loving it. Like there's Sandra's talking about the dream that she had and like pulling off this heist, and she's like, you were there with me every step of the way. And Kate's like, oh honey, is this a proposal? And she goes, baby, I don't have a diamond yet. I was like, okay, get a room, like we get it.
Yeah. And all the looks, like the loaded looks, like we know, know, Carol had lots of looks, and they said everything was looks, but there was a lot of looks in Ocean's 8 too. For
sure. And it's so funny because, Sandra or Debbie is always kind of like staring straight into her eyes, like very direct, like just laying it out. But like, especially that scene in the diner, Debbie's making such intense eye contact, and every few seconds, Cate just like looks at her mouth. Like she like is looking in her eyes, but then she just like flickers down and flickers back up and flickers down and flickers back up. And I'm like, these are 2 different vibes that I'm getting from you, but it's great. I love it.
Yeah. That meme, I gave the gays all that they wanted. I think they did.
They did.
Not explicitly, but somehow they managed to do it.
If you know, you know.
I really, my favorite scene was the Veselka scene, and just the whole setup at the beginning, and the vodka scene, which we already talked about. Are there any other scenes that you like that we haven't talked about?
I wanted to mention at the end, they do all these like flashes to the future and show like where everyone is and what they've done with their money. And they show, I think this is kind of an underrated little head nod, but they cut to Anne Hathaway's future, and she's an actress and she's become a director, and she's directing this scene, and you see her from the back, and she's directing this actress who's kind of dressed like she was early on in the film. And then she turns around, and now she's got this leather jacket on, and her hair is like kind of like straight and textured, and she's got these aviators on, and I'm like, that's like clearly what Lou has been wearing this entire movie. Like she like adopted that style and adopted that aesthetic. And then she like walks away from the actress who's like her past self and like rolls her eyes. And I was like, yes, character development.
And you can totally see, like, Anne Hathaway has said so many times, she has talked about Cate, and you can see that that's sort of like life imitating art in that she's probably, thinks of Cate as a mentor or somebody to emulate. And maybe she added that into the performance.
Yeah. And then in the next scene, it just cuts right to Lou's future where she's like in a motorcycle jacket riding into the sunset. And I was like, yeah, like these two, go hand in hand.
Yeah. And just, where's Debbie? Why is Debbie not in that motorcycle?
Right. She's waiting for her, somewhere else, on a beach somewhere.
This movie was fun, but I think the movie that everybody was expecting when we saw everything that was happening in the big lead up is Hustlers. So maybe in the end, we did get Ocean's 8, and we got it this year was Hustlers.
I agree. That was one of my first thoughts. I think that was what a lot of people were saying when they left Hustlers, was like, this is the movie, the female friendship heist movie that we deserved.
Yeah.
And I do think there are a lot of similarities between kind of how they portray like J-Lo's BDE and Hustlers, and how they portray not only Lou but also Debbie. Yeah. I think it's kind of like, squished together into kind of this female anti-hero. But yeah, definitely a lot of ways, a lot of things when I was rewatching this movie with Hustlers in mind, just reminded me of kind of, the end when J-Lo's going down the street in the Juicy Couture tracksuit, and just how perfectly like that choice emulates so much in that movie, and like how they used clothes, and then how Ocean's 8 used clothes to just, I don't know, it's a lot of similar tactics. Obviously, Hustlers did it better.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And the Hustler costume designer was an assistant costume designer on Ocean's 8.
The glow up. You love to see it.
Totally. So, let's get Ocean's 9. I mean, just get a different writer, a different director, get Lou and Debbie, and get everybody. Who would not want to see Rihanna? Who would not want to see Awkwafina? Anne Hathaway, all of them. Get them back together.
I'm in. Honestly, I'm absolutely in.
I mean, Steven Soderbergh, why didn't you direct this? Direct the sequel.
Do you think we'll get a sequel, or are we just,
I mean, I don't know. The movie was successful, but it also just people didn't love it. So I don't know if we will get the sequel or not. Probably not, because it's been 3 years.
It's been a
now.
while.
Yeah.
And it took so long to get the first one.
Yeah. So maybe not. But anyway, Cate and
Fingers
Sandra
crossed.
do another movie together. Cate and Rihanna do another movie together.
Oh, yeah. Please.
So, Cate, I want to ask you some questions about Cate Blanchett.
Please.
So, what do you think of when you think of Cate Blanchett?
I was trying to remember kind of like when she became my favorite actress, and I genuinely don't know that I can point to a specific moment. I think it just like all of a sudden was like reality for me.
Yeah.
I think she is kind of the ultimate example of this type of Hollywood actress that has become like more respected and more interesting, and just like thrived more and more as every year has passed in her career and in her life. And, I think there are a lot like, Julia Roberts, Nicole Kidman, et cetera. And like this kind of class of actresses that you think of as kind of just like actresses with a capital A,
Yeah.
And I definitely think Cate is one of them. My first brush with Cate Blanchett was Galadriel in Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, it probably makes sense that now I consider her like this perfect being who can do no wrong, because that was like
she was one when she was Galadriel.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Her introduction into my life. But I also think she's kind of just has this ageless appeal where she's always been 50 years old and she's always been 20 years old, and she still like has that look and that appeal of just kind of like timeless elegance. I sound like I'm just like ranting about how great she is, and I suppose that's what this podcast is for.
Yeah, exactly. You're on the right podcast.
I just, I think it's so hard to just have that kind of timeless appeal these days, with just how different, how ways that celebrities use that appeal on different platforms like social media or red carpets or movies. Like it's so hard to maintain a consistent brand, I think, just throughout time and throughout social media and things like that. And I think she's somehow managed it.
Yeah.
And she's just the best, She just is.
I like what you said about that she's always been 20 and she's always been 50, because as someone who was introduced to her first on Elizabeth, that's exactly what she played in that movie. And you could see that's why she became such a huge star. In that movie, she is 17 at the beginning and she ends the movie at 50. And you believe it. Yeah, you believe it. You totally believe it. She can command a win.
Right. She just has like this ageless quality, and she still does. And even in Ocean's 8, like people made all these jokes where like, oh, like Botox 8, or like, like these aging actresses who are trying so hard, but like she just doesn't have to. Like she just, no matter how old she will ever look, she just has always, or young she has ever looked, she just always kind of has this this energy where like she's just kind of, I don't know, she just kind of like stands the test of time.
Yeah. What's your favorite Cate performance?
It seems really, really basic to say this, and I like went through the whole IMDb page to see if there was another answer that would be more interesting. But I think it's Carol. Like it's just like peak Cate, and it's just like every part of her celebrity that appeals to me. I put this at the end under a different question, but I also do love Cate in Cinderella.
Oh yeah.
Where she just is like the hammiest she's ever been, and another great wardrobes movie.
Yes.
Some great outfits in that.
Yeah.
But I also do love her in that. She's just having the best time. I love villain Cate Blanchett. Like, you know, like also in Thor a little bit, where like she just like goes full like crazy and just like, how crazy can I get? How like what will they let me get away with in this Hollywood blockbuster?
Yeah, I love that about her, because she is not somebody who is afraid of going big. Like, if there's a choice between being subtle and going big, she'll go big, like she did in the movies you mentioned, but also in Indiana Jones, which is a crazy performance.
Yes. I listened to your episode about that, and she is crazy in that movie. But it's such a great way. Like, why not have fun with it, you know?
Yeah. But I love that. I mean, Carol is my favorite Cate. And it's like, you know, it's between Carol and Blue Jasmine. I just think at that time in her career, she kind of has been doing theater for so long and doing movies for so long. With those two movies, she knew exactly what she wanted to accomplish on screen. And in Carol, she has this energy, which she's very dripping with femininity, but she's also kind of butch in her emotions. Like, she is the top. You can tell.
Totally. And that is what the internet seized onto, is that energy.
So Carol was an amazing time in her career, and not only that, but it was also an amazing time in her celebrity. I mean, Carol is a movie that didn't actually do that much in the box office, but as a cultural phenomenon, it is huge. Huge.
And it's only gotten huger since it came out. Like, it has aged so well, and it has become kind of, I don't want to say a cult classic because it's too big for that, but the devotion that people have developed to this movie, and just kind of like you said, like the memes, and how like just Carol like comes up like every Christmas season now. It's like a whole thing, and like it spawned this whole internet hive that is just like obsessed with like Cate Blanchett lesbian memes, which seems like a really niche thing, but is actually like pretty widespread.
It is. I mean, the New Yorker read a big, huge article about it. It wasn't about that exactly, but that was also the lead into it. The one step on my neck, Cate Blanchett.
Yes. And there is like this whole corner of the internet that is just into like thirsting after celebrities, especially like, you know, gay culture and things like that. And Cate Blanchett absolutely rules that corner of the internet. And I know we both exist in that corner of the internet.
So we're not very partial.
We're not.
Very impartial.
But we understand the people. We understand what the people want. But yeah, it's so funny. There's like this account on Instagram that I follow that's just one of many, genuinely. Yes. And it's called like Dyke Blanchett, and it's literally just like gay Cate Blanchett memes. And what's so funny is it's like, it's not that much of a stretch, because there's like so much material between like her interviews and like just the vibe that she gives off. And people are just like accept it as canon, even though like she has a husband and a happy family and like, you know.
But there are many conspiracy theories about that.
Yes, there are. But yeah, it's just such a funny and like such a widely accepted like internet thing now. It's just like gay Cate Blanchett memes. It's a really wide canon. It's a rich text, you could say.
So the post-Carol sort of meme story that I love is Harold, they're lesbians.
Oh my God.
Because, I mean, if you're listening to this, you probably know this. So we'll give just a brief explanation of what it is. This is somebody who went somewhere in New York to an afternoon showing of Carol, and there were an older couple sitting in front of them, behind them, somewhere nearby. And apparently midway through the movie, the wife turns to her husband and says, Harold, they're lesbians. And this... It
has become like maybe one of my favorite memes of all time.
Yeah.
Really good.
And it just works. It works every time. You want to say something about anything, about anybody, you could just say, Harold, they're lesbians. And everybody gets exactly what it is.
Yes, 100%. And it's so true, too, just because, like, when I saw Carol in a theater for the first time, I was there with, like, all these old couples. And so it's just, like, so specifically just, like, everyone can identify with, first of all, that scenario and being like, oh, like, this movie is now suddenly like being understood by the people I'm seeing it with. And it's so applicable to like everything. Like I remember like, you know, Janelle Monáe and like Tessa Thompson released a music video and everyone was like, Harold, they're lesbians. And like when Ocean's 8 came out, everyone was like, you know, tweeting the pictures of Cate and Sandra and being like, Harold, they're lesbians. And like it just applies to everything. It's the perfect meme.
Yeah. A very nice meme also that somebody shared with me on the Sundays with Cate Twitter is a picture of, you know, that picture of all the Ocean's 8 actresses looking at the screen. And somebody has actually done it with as if they were watching Carol, and it's very, very funny.
That's perfect.
And they're all commenting similar comments to Harold, they're lesbians. It's very funny. It's a very funny one.
Perfect. I love when all of my interests, you know, combine in meme form.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So let's talk about Cate as a fashion icon. So, as you know, she is somebody who I think understands the red carpet, you know, maybe more than most actresses. And she thinks of it as a performance. I think it was Laura Harrier at Cannes where she said she was nervous about the red carpet, and Cate, who was the jury president that year that she was in Black Klansman, she's like, why? You're an actress. It's a performance. So I think that's exactly what she does, because she's always gliding into the red carpet, knows the moment. My favorite red carpet moment is the Carol premiere at Cannes, where she wore that Gilles dress that was just made, I think, for the Cannes red steps. And she took forever to walk those steps. And every time she would walk one step, she would look behind and pose for the photographer. She's like, I'm creating a moment. Rooney and Todd, you can run up. You can do what you want. This is going to take a minute.
Yes, she totally knows how to play the game. And she also, I love that, first of all, she has an incredible success rate on the red carpet while also still having fun. And I think that's so hard to do. I feel like either actresses take a lot of risks and have a lot of like missed swings where it's like you tried and I respect the effort, but like this was not it. Or, you know, you have somebody like, you know, like Meryl Streep or like, you know, maybe some of the older actresses who just
or
like
Kate Winslet, who is
or Kate, totally, that's a great example.
Yeah,
who just kind of stick to the same basic formula and they always look great, but they never really take risks.
Yeah,
and I think Cate Blanchett's success rate is so amazing, just considering how many risks she does take and how many of them pay off. She just is always so classy and elegant, no matter what she wears. It's really amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when she went to the Oscars for the very first time, I didn't even know designers then. I was Joan Galliano, Dior she wore when she was nominated for Elizabeth. And that was like the first time I'm like, oh, what is happening? And since then, that's 20 years ago. Since then, she has made so many other amazing red carpet moments. Do you want to tell us one or two of yours?
Oh, I don't know who the designer was. This one stuck out just because I was so tuned into the Cannes when she was the president of Cannes this year. I know we're going to talk about that in a bit.
Yeah.
But she wore like you know those like coloring sheets where it's like paint by numbers?
Paint by number, yeah.
Yes, she wore like a paint by numbers dress, and there was this picture of her daughter like under her skirt when she like right before she hit the red carpet. And first of all, I was like, this should not work. Like nobody should be able to pull off a dress that literally is paint by numbers. But it was like the top half was black and white, and then the bottom half was like so intricately like beaded, and it was like it looked like you'd started painting at the bottom, and then the top half was up. Let me see. I just looked up who it is. Mary Katrenzu. But it was just such a great example of like being elegant and fun and like taking a risk and it totally paying off. And then just that perfect picture of her daughter under her skirt. And it was perfect. I was like, nobody does it like you. It was great.
That picture is so beautiful. But also this is another moment where I have, you know, I'll admit this. There is a video of her walking that red carpet. It was the premiere of Cold War at Cannes. And there is a picture of her where they basically stopped everybody from walking, which they do that for the big stars. Yeah. It's not just for Cate. And so she gets the red carpet, just her, for like 5 minutes or something like that. And she walks and steps in that dress and on the steps. And it's just a perfect moment. I have watched that 7,000 times.
I'm going to have to go watch that later, right after we finish here.
Yeah. We talked about Carol. Carol was not only professionally, just as an actress, the epitome of her talent and a performance that everybody loves and just culturally so significant, but also it made her just what we were talking about, this. And I think it was the peak pop culture moment. Like if you take from Carol until Ocean's 8, that is, I think, peak Cate in pop culture.
I totally agree.
And there are a lot of moments. So I chose like 4 moments. The 5th one is just a joke. I chose 4 moments that I think are sort of the peak moments for her. So first was the Carol press tour. Because
Absolutely.
People went crazy for her and Rooney. Because they loved the movie, but everybody loved how Rooney was just so in awe of her everywhere they went, and always like smiles. Rooney doesn't smile that much, but she does smile when Cate appears during that press tour. And just this is linked to sort of like the movie and our love for the movie, so that was a fantastic sort of moment.
Yeah, and I think Cate and Rooney have, in some ways, extremely similar, and in some ways, extremely different sort of celebrity appeals. I think they both have kind of that like classy, elegant sort of look and vibe. But Cate is so like, spontaneous and warm in interviews, and her persona, on the street and like in social media and things like that. I think she is very likable and relatable. And I think that's something that Rooney struggles with, but also kind of benefits from sometimes being at a distance from that. Yeah. And I think it's a testament to both of them, how well they worked together on this press tour and how clearly they did like each other and they did get along, just because I think it could have been tough. And I think it could have put both of them, I think Rooney could have looked colder and I think Cate could have looked weirder in an alternate universe, like putting them side by side and putting their sort of personalities at odds. But I think they worked together so well, and Rooney, seemed warmer and Cate seemed classier, and it worked out in both their favors, I think. That press tour was great.
Yeah, it was a great time. And also great was the jury at Cannes. We already talked about that a couple of times, but that was the greatest 10 days of just, to your point earlier, looking at Getty Images. Because
seriously,
when you are the jury president at Cannes or you're a juror, you have to watch all 20-something movies they play at Cannes. So that means that every day you have to go out in an area where there are so many photographers. So she didn't walk every red carpet, but she walked several. But also she just had to get out of the hotel. So there were so many pictures, and everybody was just getting a buzz every day with like a new suit and just her walking down the street in Cannes, talking to Laura Harrier, for instance, who we mentioned earlier, or whoever was at Cannes that year. It was such a great time.
Oh my God, I've never felt more seen than I have in this podcast interview. It was so great. She did so many photo calls in like great suits and great sunglasses. And then like that night she would be on a red carpet in some amazing gown. And I was like, we're eating so good. Like the Cate stands have never been happier. I do genuinely think you have a long list here, and I think it's all true, but I think that like May 2018 into the Ocean's 8 press tour in June was like the absolute peak of like Cate Blanchett fame, just because I think she just displayed such a complete understanding of what people want from her without seeming like she was trying too hard. Like she was like catering without really catering. Like she was just like doing her and knowing that that's what people wanted and that's what would work.
And of course, during that time, this was the time when Kristen Stewart gave her that look when they were in a photo call for the jury, and that was the picture that went around the world.
Yes, there's always something, there's always something that the Cate lesbian hive can latch onto, and that was it.
And it reminded me, remember when at the MTV Music when Madonna kissed both Britney and Christina? What people forget is that Lea Seydoux is on the other side of Cate, giving her the same look, but nobody ever mentions her. It's always about Kristen Stewart.
Poor Lea.
She's also the Christina in this scenario.
Right. And Lea also, like, in Blue is the Warmest Color, like, also kind of like a lesbian actress icon. Can we give her due, please? Yeah. Like, don't prop her out.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I agree with you. That Cannes time was great. But it also led into the Ocean's Press Tour. And the Ocean's Press Tour, to me, was exemplified by that very long interview. I think it was Good Morning America, where Cate and Sarah Paulson went in, and they did not talk about the movie. They did not talk about anything they were supposed to talk about. They just I think maybe it wasn't Good Morning America. It was the Today Show because Huda was called in. It was the Today Show, yeah. Because Huda was called in to basically rescue the interview, but she couldn't.
There's no chance. Nobody can get them back on track once they just start flirting, basically, which is what they were doing essentially for like 20 minutes.
Yeah. And then, of course, the many, many suits that Cate wore. I mean, her whole press tour for Ocean's 8, she was not going as Lou Miller. Lou Miller is downtown. She's grungy. But she was going as uptown Lou Miller to every press event.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of something that we're seeing more and more often where they're not obviously dressing exactly like their characters in movies, but I think a lot of times people are theming like their press tour outfits to be like sort of thematically similar to the character that they're promoting for. I think Blake Lively also kind of did it for A Simple Favor, where she also had this long line of crazy suits and obviously made a lot of headlines. So did Cate. And I think it was day after day. It was like another great suit. And Blake did it a little more over the top way. But it was actually crazy I was looking through pictures and it's crazy how many great looks Cate had on this press tour. It's wild.
So many. But I think also Cate like finds the right balance. Like when she was doing the press tour for Cinderella, she was never the talk of that press tour because that was about Lily James. So she knows when to recede to the background and when to be the focus. For Carol, she was the focus. For Ocean's 8, she was the focus.
Right.
So, yeah, she knows how to calibrate it well.
She totally does. She's a pro.
The other thing I can't believe this happened literally within walking distance of where I live. And I can't believe I wasn't there, but I wasn't. Was when Cate went to a drag show at the Stonewall Inn and did a lip sync of Dusty Springfield's You Don't Own Me, which is around the same time that she was shooting Ocean's 8 and on Broadway.
Incredible. I remember seeing this pop up and being like, is this real? Like, did this really happen? Or is it like a drag queen, like being Cate Blanchett? And they were like, no, it's Cate Blanchett. It was incredible. Again, like she knows her audience so well and she knows how to just like give little tastes of like fan service, but in a way that's not pandering. That's just like, I want to do this and people are going to love it anyway. It's so good.
I mean, that time the world was so abuzz with her that even Val Kilmer had to interject and send some creepy tweets, which we will not talk about that much. But I just brought it up because it's funny because we all sort of were looking at pictures and talking, but he just had to take it just a little bit further and be creepy.
I had never seen these until you linked these on here. Somehow I must have like blocked them out of my head. But listen, Val Kilmer having a stan Twitter account for Cate Blanchett is just like par for the course for the times that we live in. So like I get it.
Yeah. I mean, the other sort of celebrity stan that I think she has is Gillian Anderson, who is very funny. And every once in a while, she'll just tweet an old picture of her and Cate.
They have a kind of a similar aesthetic as well. Gillian Anderson has also kind of leaned into like the power gay suits appeal in recent years.
You said that Galadriel was your first time that you saw Cate and you fell in love. Was she your first sort of actress love, or were there others? Are there others?
You know, I like I said, I don't quite remember when I started being like, I love actresses. But I was thinking about this, and I was also obsessed with like Nicole Kidman and Moulin Rouge. Moulin Rouge was like my favorite. It still is one of my favorite movies, but I was like obsessed with it in like middle school, high school. And she definitely kind of is the same energy as Cate in a lot of ways, beyond the like Australian thing. But yeah, Nicole Kidman in Moulin Rouge was it for me for a while. But I've broadened my scope in years since.
Yeah. Is there a performance from Cate that only you like?
Like I said, I love when she just like really gets hammy and like really has a great time. Like I said, Cinderella is definitely up there. I also just love like sometimes she's just like the only thing in a movie that I like. Like this isn't probably it, but I just saw Where'd You Go, Bernadette the other day. Yeah. And I just always have this reaction where any movie that she's ever in, I'm like, it's enough that she's in it and like I'm gonna have a good time no matter what, just like watching her have fun. And she definitely did also have fun in that movie. Again, it was like not great and it was a tough wig, but
yeah, I don't get that wig at all.
No, but even just like watching her like do her thing and just like make some weird choices, it's just always a great time, like pretty much no matter the movie, you know?
Yeah. I agree with you. I think Bernadette was unfairly maligned. I think she's really great in it. So who's your favorite Cate scene partner?
You know, I think I probably got to go with Sarah Paulson. And that definitely extends to, like, interview partners. But between Carol and Ocean's 8, and, like, they make such an impact together in such a short amount of time. Like they've never really done like full movies together. They just have scenes together every now and then they go on these chaotic press tours together, and you're like, I want to see more of you. So yeah, they've done, I guess, 2 movies together, and I would love for a third.
Yeah, give us a sequel or a prequel with Carol and Abby. Everybody wants that.
Yes, I'm in.
That would be like the gift to give everybody who loves Carol. It's Carol Mass after all. And since it is Carol season, what's your favorite thing about Cate and Carol?
Oh my gosh. Other than like the costumes and the whole vibe and everything, it probably is the looks. She has just such a great way of conveying emotion and like desire just through a look. And I know that's like kind of the big theme of Carol, but I just kept thinking about it in this movie as well. Just like where she's looking on someone's face, or like how she's like flickering her eyes up and forth, or excuse me, up and down. And like she, in Ocean's 8 as well, she like had this way of kind of like looking at someone like with her her chin out, and it like totally changes the vibe, just like how she moves her head when she's looking at someone. And she does that in Carol too. Like it's just it's such like a wordless way, and I just don't think anyone does it like her. Nobody gives a look like Cate Blanchett,
Nobody does. My contribution to this Carol Mass, and since we were talking about Carol and Abby, is one of my favorite little things that she does in Carol is when Abby drops Carol off at that Christmas party where she's going to meet Harge. And she asks her to come in, and she's like, no, I'm not coming in. As she is walking into the party, leaving Abby behind, you know that Abby is looking at her. And she does this half step, clicks her feet together while not looking back. But that was like, sort of like, I know you're watching, Abby. And I love that.
Oh my God. She's incredible. I got to rewatch Carol. It's been like almost a year. It's Carol season.
It is Carol season.
I got to do it.
In New York, the Metrograph actually plays 35mm Carol every Christmas. I already have my tickets on the 21st. We're going. If you're in New York, come to Carol.
I got to move to New York just for that. I would do it.
So who would you like to see her work with? And this could be, a costume designer, an actor, a director, or somebody she worked with or somebody she hasn't.
So on one hand, I was like, Kristen Stewart, do it for the gays,
Totally,
just like imagine the suits on that press tour.
Oh,
come on.
God, yes.
But then I also was thinking, and Cate did a play with Elizabeth Debicki and Isabelle Huppert. She was in The Maids with them.
Yeah.
And they both are such great actresses. And I think Elizabeth Debicki is kind of like a young Cate Blanchett in a lot of ways. Again, like Australian thing aside, I think they have a very similar kind of like timeless appeal. And I would love to see her reunite with them like on screen. That would be amazing.
Yeah, that would be great. Maybe she can be in that Carol and Abby sequel somehow as the third wheel.
Oh I'm in.
Is there something in the cultural perception of Cate that you like? We've talked about that a lot. So I don't know if there's anything you want to add, or is there something that sometimes might annoy you about that?
I was considering kind of talking about being annoyed by the perception that she's kind of just like, part of kind of the aging actresses now, because there is this class of actresses that I think people are like, oh, like you're past your prime. But I think she just defies that like on so many levels that people don't even really consider that. Like I think she is thriving so loudly that I don't think anyone really is like Cate Blanchett's like heyday is over. Like I think she's still making such fun choices, and she's as good as she's ever been, that I don't think that her age has affected, not that like she is of advanced age, she's not, but like by Hollywood standards, you know how it goes. I don't think that's affected the quality of her roles or at all her performance or her presence in any way. And I like to basically have nothing to say that I'm annoyed by, because I think she just like so effortlessly has a handle on her appeal and is just like, just gets better every year in every aspect of her celebrity and her performance.
Yeah, and she is actually, now that she's entering her 50s, she is at the time just professionally where actresses of her caliber get a third wind. Like if you think of Meryl Streep and Prada, or Katharine Hepburn in The Lion in Winter and Who's Coming to Dinner. So she's coming to that age where I think now she can play different amazing roles. And agreed. I'm very excited about that.
Me too. I'm happy for us.
Yes, very happy. So thank you so much, Cate. This was so much fun and a joy. Before we go, tell our listeners where they can find you and your work.
So I'm at Kate Hallow on Twitter. I write for The Ringer, and I'm on a podcast called Tea Time, where I don't get to talk about Cate Blanchett nearly enough. So this was a thrill. But yeah, if you want to find some like gay Cate Blanchett memes, I always have a few at my disposal. So hit me up.
Thank you, Cate. And you can find me on Twitter at ME_says and follow the podcast at Sundays with Cate. And until next time, thank you for listening.